according to a recent Demos report, the average fast food CEO takes home $23.8 million a year, while the average fast food worker takes home around $19,000 a year. That translates into a CEO to worker pay ratio of 1,200 to 1, 1,200 to 1. Don't you think these CEOs can afford to pay their workers a little more?
Oh, sure they can. A CEO can for sure. But while the CEOs are doing just fine, the fact of the matter is that when you go down to the level of the actual fast food franchise, profit margins are often very thin, as little as 3%. Remember, it's not the CEO that's running it, it's an individual franchisee. And if we're talking about raising the minimum wage for a fast food worker by the magnitude that you're talking about, you're going to see on average about a 15% cost of doing business for a franchisee. Compare that to a 3% profit margin, that's really difficult. You're going to see some job losses.
You are
Tom.
comparing apples and oranges, and plus the 15%. This isn't even a 15% increase in wages, much less your cost of doing business includes your rent, your taxes, your raw materials, your hamburgers, your buns, your food. I mean, there's a million things involved in there.
You're talking about industry-wide.
We're looking at a fraction of a single percent.
Wages are. No, not at all, Tom. Industry-wide, wages actually account for about 26% of the operating expense for an individual fast food franchise. So you're talking about massive, massive increases in the cost of doing business. And look, they're going to look to make up that cost elsewhere. And yes, it's going to be in raising prices.
No, they won't.
And
It'll be less money for the CEOs and the stockholders. I mean,
no, it won't be. It won't be the CEOs. And still, look, Tom, if you think that money's going to come out of the CEO's pocket,
if
Tom,
the numbers he has laid out are right,
talking,
then you just blew up your own numbers. You're saying a quarter of your costs are labor. If your labor costs go up 10%, that's a quarter of 10%. That's 2.25. That's 2.5%.
Tom, if you think that you're going to make up this money by CEOs taking money out of their pockets instead of by franchisees finding ways to save costs,
they're just too greedy to do that, right?
Tom, you might as well, greed or not, you might as well collect the money with leprechauns and unicorns, because you're not going to get it that way.
Well, then how is
McDonald's is already, Tom, McDonald's is already on the precipice of using an iPhone app to take orders and to have people pay at their franchises. You're talking about serious job losses. The minute that the cost of labor surpasses the cost of installing and maintaining technology like that, you're going to see these jobs disappear.
No, this is already happening in industries all over the country where you can order things in advance and come in and pick them up. I mean, times change. The National Employment Law Project points out that this business model that you're defending of paying people so little that they qualify for food stamps, they qualify for Medicaid, they qualify for housing support, is costing you and me, taxpayers, $3.8 billion a year in welfare that we're paying for the employees of these companies that are intentionally keeping their wages low enough that these people qualify for welfare, which is why the Obama administration wants to raise the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour, which, by the way, is below what it is in San Francisco. And because at $10.10 an hour, people no longer qualify for food stamps. Why do you support these welfare queens at McDonald's and all these other fast food restaurants taking $3.8 billion from you and me?
Well, Tom, when you're talking specifically about the fast food industry, you're not talking about people that are really supporting families. And yes, in the Great Recession, the average age of a fast food worker has ticked up. But for the average McDonald's franchise, it's under 30. It's
29.
Mid to late 20s. But Tom, look, you're still seeing an average turnover of 150% at an individual franchise, and the average McDonald's worker only works there for about 8 months. So you're still talking about a lot of young kids.
So David, you know what? No, it's not young kids. It's crappy wages. Do you know how much McDonald's would save if they could cut their turnover in half? If they could have their average employee stay a year, 2 years, 3 years like Costco does, it would save them a fortune.
Tom, walk into any McDonald's, any Taco Bell, any Chipotle in America. I mean, at least here in New York City, you're seeing a lot of young people from lower income areas who are working their first job, who are learning how to coexist with their supervisor, how to work cooperatively with other employees. You're talking about losing a lot of jobs that people need. This is the first step on the rung to upward social mobility for a lot of lower income people.
This is losing a little profitability, which is just fine with me. Anyhow, we're not going to resolve this today.